This podcast is brought to you by Paramount Plus and by Arate Media. Start your podcast today.
The Final Frontier podcast. These are the voyages of Jake Boger and Justin Spur. Our weekly mission to explore memories of Star Trek's strange new worlds, to recall the search for new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has had the spare time to go before. There are certainly parts of it.
I have holes to poke, but I always have holes to poke.
There are parts that I liked, but overall, I can't say that this was a. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just kind of. It was just now. To be fair, in the episode's defense, I realized on Wednesday. Yeah, I realized on Wednesday, I was like, oh, I need to watch this episode. And it's already like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm tired, but I won't have time on Thursday. So, and we're recording this on a Friday. Therefore, I got to kind of like power through this episode. But there are definitely parts. But welcome, everyone, after that wonderful aside, to the Final Frontier podcast. This week, we're talking about the episode Return of the Archons, and Justin really liked it, and because you didn't hear that part, but I didn't love or hate it. It was just kind of there for me.
There was moments throughout this where I'm like, oh, this is so good. I'm really digging this.
Okay, I'm speaking to the older part of our audience right now. Do you remember back when television? You remember television, over the air television, when you had to tune into your show on a certain day at a certain time, or you would miss it. And sometimes an episode would come out and it was just kind of like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And last week was really good and you were looking forward to it. And then you feel a little disappointed afterwards. You're just kind of like, that was the thing, I guess. That was this episode for me.
I mean, it did look. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have questions, but overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. We will identify the moments. There are several moments where I wrote down I am enjoying this, and we will identify them as we go through, as they appear in the notes.
Well, this is a great time, though, Justin. Should we tell them?
Oh, we have to tell them. We should
tell them.
I mean, they always want you to disclose, so we should definitely disclose.
Live long and suck it, haters, because we are officially sponsored by Paramount Plus.
Heck yeah, we are.
We made Fetch happen.
We made Fetch happen. After weeks of demanding it, they allowed it for some reason.
I don't know that we demanded, per se. We kind of were just like, frankly, I'm kind of surprised they said yes, but I'm not going to jinx it. So, in honor of our new partnership, Justin, would you like to do the first of many Paramount Plus descriptions presented by Paramount Plus?
I mean, obviously. So, okay. So in this Paramount Plus description, they indicate
presented by Paramount Plus.
Presented by Paramount Plus. They indicate a seemingly peaceful group of people and their benevolent leader. In air quotes. It's in air quotes, which just kind of gives the game away.
So you already know.
You already know. Also, Return of the Archons suggested a previous appearance. Have we seen them before?
We have not. The planet has.
That's what I sort of realized. And then that's it. That's the Paramount Plus description brought to you by Paramount Plus. Thank you, Paramount Plus, for
Thank you, Paramount Plus. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for providing a place for me to easily watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. Not the Next Generation, the original series.
I mean, all of them, really, because they're
All
all
of
on
them.
there. But
And the
this episode,
movies.
yeah, and the movies. And this episode of the original series takes place between star dates 3156.2 and 3158.7. The in-universe show date is 2267 still, and the original air date was February 9th, 1967. This episode is written by Boris Sobelman and directed by our friend Joseph Pevney. We've seen his name before.
Heavenly.
Pevney, Mr. Pevney. I
Mr.
get the vibe.
Pevney.
I feel like he should be British.
So I see. To me, Pevney just gives me the vibe. He's like a mascot for like Pez. Pevney the Pez dispenser.
I feel like Percy the Peb dispenser.
Oh no, Percy is better. No, yeah, no, Percy is better.
Percival Pez dispenser, Esquire.
Pez. Pez. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Fun fact about this episode: this is a funny little Easter egg that honestly I wish there was footage of this. There probably is, but it's not available. So apparently, all the regular cast members of the show were quitting smoking at the same time while they were shooting this episode. So
Huh.
many of them chewed gum instead. The director Joseph Pevney was becoming increasingly upset because he had to cut to remind the cast not to chew gum during the shoots. As a prank for a large scene, William Shatner went around handing out bubble gum to the cast, crew, and 60 to 80 extras and had everyone blow a bubble right after the director hollered action.
That's funny. That's funny. They all
That that
quitting
feels like
smoking.
that feels like a William Shatner prank. It
It
just
does.
does. That jives. I like it. I like it. I dig it.
Just picturing Captain Kirk just like strung out like 3 days of quitting cold turkey. Like,
Spock,
what?
I
How I have to wear?
Spock, I need a drag.
Spock, I need to step outside, sir. It's the space outside. Spock, I
Be right out.
don't care. Get me out of here,
Captain,
Spock.
the Klingons are attacking. Well, why don't they go attack somebody else?
just, just set phasers. Just kill them all.
Just kill them all. Do you think they have tobacco on?
How much tobacco do they have on that planet?
Oh gosh, that reminds me. Do you remember the episode of the Orville where Boris and Clyden discover
Oh yeah,
smoking?
they become horribly addicted to smoking. Yes, yes, I do.
It's such a 100 cigarettes.
It turns out Mothmas have no natural immunity to this. Oh no.
The Mocklins are simultaneously a source of great comedy and fantastic storytelling.
Ah, they're just so good.
I'm rewatching the Orville at night when I go to sleep, and I just watched the episode where Bortus gets a mustache.
Oh
It's,
yeah.
this shouldn't be funny, but it is. It's hilarious.
It's funny because he's shown up in a few things. The actor who plays him, where I'm like, why do I recognize him? The number one was a Shameless. He showed up on Shameless, and I was like, it was driving me crazy. And I'm like, what? Who? Why do I recognize this man? He's
It's
the
Peter Macon, isn't it?
I
That's his name.
believe so. Yeah, well, you've seen Shameless, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, he's Carl's girlfriend's police dad.
No, that's
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Wow, he's kind of like Michael Dorn in that way.
Yeah. Where
He's
he's just
got
like, hey, why
he's
do I recognize him?
you recognize the voice, right?
Yeah, he showed up in. Also, he was in. Have you seen the more recent uh Planet of the Apes movie?
Yeah.
He's in that too. He's the the monkey who believes in the true word of Caesar.
The okay, yeah, the ring. Okay, yeah.
And I was like,
It's
why
a
do I
different.
recognize him?
It's a really different inflection, but yeah, no, I can. No, I can see it.
Yeah,
I
I
can
was
see it.
driving that movie was weird because it was like, oh, they look like the people. Oh, it's weird. Oh, the CGI's getting weird. We're hitting Uncanny Valley.
Right, and then Better Man comes out, and you're like, whoa,
Whoa,
this just
he's
looks
a
like Planet of the.
monkey.
I mean, it is. It's essentially the same technology, dialed up to 11 because of the demands of the film,
Yeah.
but we're not talking about Planet of the Apes. That's another
No,
podcast that doesn't exist yet. I mean, I'm sure there's Planet of the Apes podcast out there, but
I'm sure. I'm sure there
I'm
is.
sure. But would you like to know where the word Archon comes from?
I'm gonna guess Arcanite, like from James and the Arcanites.
No, that's Argonites with a G.
Organized. Okay, never mind
Yeah,
that.
because the ship is the Argo. Another great movie. Argo's a fantastic movie. I loved
Argo,
it.
fudge
But
yourself.
it's one of my favorite ones. But the word
Was
Archon uh, was the title of certain Greek heads of state, most famously in the Athenian Republic. It comes from the Greek root word arch, A-R-C-H, meaning leader, highest, or chief. It can also
so
be
it's
found. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say so it's still Greek.
Yes, yes, it's
Ah.
Greek.
Oh, interesting. Okay, sorry. Go on.
It's Greek to me. Huh? No, it can also be found in English words monarch, hierarchy, and anarchy, all of which
Um,
are present in Landru's society. I don't know that monarchy is.
I mean, I get
I guess
Landau's
is
technically the king,
emperor. Well,
emperor.
I guess that's monarchy, but in universe, the name comes from the ship, the USS Archon.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so we will know this when we get into the story. The Enterprise arrives at the planet Beta 3 in the C-111 system, where the USS Archon was reported lost nearly 100 years earlier. Lieutenant Sulu is the only member of the landing party who beams up from the planet's surface and exhibits inexplicable euphoria, as well as insisting the crew is, quote, not of the body, and referring to them as Archons. Victorian Sulu looks good.
Is that Victorian? I thought it was
It's
colonial.
te-
It looked
it's see, okay, my initial and I can explain this. So I'm calling him Victorian because of the time period. My initial thought was it looked very colonial because my note was colonial Sulu looks good, but this is the architecture is supposed to be 19th century, so
wow.
this would be
Okay,
1800. So
I
technically
mean,
Victorian. Well, actually, I take that back. Depending on what part of the 19th century, because I would still considering the Constitution of the United States wasn't even ratified until 1789.
yeah.
I would consider early 1800s still technically colonial, although I guess technically that's wrong, but it bleeds in. So I would
Well,
guess this is early 1800s America
I
based on
got
the architecture.
confused because well, I got a note for it later when we eventually see what the rest of them are wearing. But I guess I'll mention it here. Like the outfit or the not outfits, but the style seemed to be kind of confused because yeah, Sulu seem to be wearing colonial outfits. Kirk and them have bolo ties, look like they're dressed for a western, and
Right.
then some of them are wearing just regular business attire. So I was like, what is the year? But then maybe I'm like, oh, based on the reveal later, I'm like, maybe that has to do with what the computer is feeding them.
It's got to, yeah, but basically what we're
But
getting at is, and I would jokingly say that Sulu has another hobby, but it's not distinctly said. Sulu likes to go to Renaissance fairs, but we can't
he likes
count it as canon.
um well okay. So I've just this opening bit, I got a few notes, which is just yeah, what is with the American Civil War outfits? Also, what look sorry, what the is happening? He mentions finding some clue. Does he mean finding a clue, or is clue like some kind of weird future space drug? And the hooded guys chasing them were giving Grim Reaper. They were giving Grim
Yeah,
Reaper.
yeah, for sure. I think he meant
Uh,
clue. I think he meant clue in the literal sense, but
in a literal sense. Also, they have outfits that they can wear for landing parties to blend in. And O'Neill is definitely dead. And is he a red shirt?
no and no. Actually, he is not dead.
He's not dead,
No.
and he's not a red shirt. Also, Sulu's little monologue when he comes back. My only note on that is just Sulu is the star of the show.
Yeah, and the other note I had is what is it with Sulu and mind altering substances?
He likes having his mind blown. What can we say?
Sulu's very susceptible to mind altering chemicals because he always just dials it up to 12, and I love it. So I was watching this and I asked, is this the Mayberry set again?
Oh, I can see why you would say that.
It's not, but it's close. It's actually the Gone with the Wind set, but they're on the
Oh,
same studio backlot.
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then when I read that, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense because this Mayberry's 1960s aesthetic, whereas this is more 19th century, so it makes
Yeah,
sense.
it makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny. I was like, wow, I get sometimes I'll make a note and to check something, and I'm actually kind of proud at how often I'm right or at least like close to hitting the mark.
Yeah.
There's a few in this episode that I found quite humorous, but our story continues. Work beams down with another party to investigate. They find the inhabitants living in a 19th century Earth-style culture ruled over cloaked and cowled lawgivers and a reclusive dictator, Landru. Their arrival is shortly followed by the festival, a period of violence, destruction, and aggression.
Okay. So they do have outfits that they can wear when they land in landing parties. So in Tomorrow is Yesterday, why did they not put on disguises when they were trying to infiltrate the army base? To wit, this appears to be the first appearance of, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Prime Directive.
It is. There's a note on that later. But yes, this is the first mention of the Prime Directive specifically. I think they hinted at it once before, but
Because
they
my
didn't.
response to that would be they've never seemed to steer away from non-interference prior to this moment.
The funny thing is, like, everybody who talks about the Prime Directive in this episode kind of chuckles at the fact that it's simply brought up for Kirk to break it.
I mean, it sure seems that way. Well, it's okay.
I agree with Kirk's justification though. I'm not gonna lie. I do agree with it in this case.
Yeah,
Because
well,
the culture is a result of interference.
true. But just my notes are just this seems to be the first time they've ever attempted to blend in to the point that Spock has a little headdress on to cover his ears,
Which is promptly ignored later in the
right?
episode. But
And then you mentioned the festival. I've got several notes that it just seems like the Purge.
my note says, "Holy crap, it's the Purge." And you want to know what's funny? It turns out that this episode was actually at least partially the inspiration for the Purge franchise.
Okay, so that's really funny that you say that because all the people kind of looked like being like they were old timey, dressed in kind of an old timey aesthetic. There's an episode of Rick and Morty where they go to a planet and that planet is doing the purge, but they're all kind of like Amish like people. And I was like, that's odd. That seems like a specific reference. So I'm wondering if that's a reference to this as well.
It probably is. I didn't see any notes specifically tied to Rick and Morty, but that wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, that's the other note that I was like, wow, I feel smart.
Right?
Because my first
Uh
thought was, wow, this is just the Purge
yeah.
with dumber people. But
I would have never I thought it was I would have never thought that the purge was actually based on this. That's actually
see,
pretty good.
I looked though, so I don't want to say yes for sure it was, but I found a bunch of publications saying that it was inspired by, but I never actually saw a direct quote from the filmmaker because the filmmaker is
Interesting.
quoted as talking about an incident of road rage that he went through that inspired him. But there's also articles talking about how his father described this episode to him. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, he had that road rage incident, and then his dad was like, "Oh yeah, there's this episode of Star Trek with the red hour," which I have a note on that too. It's not a red hour; it's a red day.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
because
yeah.
it goes from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. on the
Oh
clock.
yeah.
That's a day.
That's a day. And then I had an early prediction for the because I will say I have a note it's just solid mystery. I didn't quite know what was going on at first. I had an early prediction for what Landra was. I honestly thought that it was going to be like, and correct me if I get this reference wrong, Apocalypse Now, where it's
Yeah, I was kind
Orson
of
Welles.
yeah, I was kind of is it or no, it's not Orson Welles, it's Robert Redford.
Not Robert Redford. No, it's oh, he showed up drunk. Marlon Brando, not
Marlon
Orson Welles.
Brando.
Marlon
Wow, we were
Brando.
both wrong. Yeah, it
Yeah, I
is
was both
Marlon
very
Brando.
wrong. Yeah, and he's like the insane. That's Apocalypse Now, right? Where he's gone
Yeah, that's
insane. He's like,
Apocalypse Now. Yeah.
that's what I thought this was going to be. I thought that it was going to be like he was the captain of the Archon, and
See,
he like
yeah, that's
manipulated
what I
these poor
thought.
people.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But then it said the Argon. So my beef with this episode though is the fact that the Enterprise is like, oh, we're gonna check out this planet where a ship went missing 100 years ago.
Right? That seems like too long of a time. Like maybe 10 years ago
Yeah,
would have been a better.
5, 10 a year. Like I get, and there's another episode later on where that's essentially the plot where a ship went missing and then they go down to the planet. I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's a fun one, but Trekkies know what episode I'm talking about, where they go down and things look really familiar and very uniform, shall we say. But the plot of that is that there was direct interference by a Federation employee, guy, dude, officer.
Officer?
Somebody from the Federation went down and he and went, you know what would be nice? this
If
would
I
work.
helped you out,
And it blows up spectacularly. However, would you like to know another fun fact about this episode?
absolutely.
Ben Stiller named his production company Red Hour after this episode.
Oh, that is a fun fact. I did not know
Yes.
that.
For those who don't know, Ben Stiller's a huge Star Trek fan, and actually, I almost put this note in the episode with the Gorn, but it felt really out of place. But then it comes back here. He owns one of the original Gorn heads from the costume, and it's in his
Really
office. Yeah.
neat. That's neat.
I find it really fun. To my knowledge, Ben Stiller's never guest starred on an episode of Star Trek before, though.
Huh.
I could be wrong,
Interesting.
but I can't recall. Yeah,
I
that
don't know.
seems odd to me. Even in the newer ones, he's probably too big of a name now. But I
I
don't know.
mean, I don't know. You could get him in a cameo in one of the movies or something,
Hey, if Seth MacFarlane can do it,
right? Get him on
bring
the
him.
Orville.
Actually, yeah, that would. Is he? No, he didn't do a guest spot in the Orville.
No, I don't think so. Not on camera.
Not on camera. He was just back there being like, "Can I come
It's like one of the, and it's like Simon Pegg in Star Trek or Star Wars, where he's just in like a costume. He's there, but you don't know it's him.
in?" Right. Like you already brought this up. This is the first episode where the landing party is deliberately disguised to blend in with the native population. The actor Carl Held, who is credited as Christopher Held, who plays Lindstrom, there's a moment when the mob is going into the festival when things are
Yeah.
starting to get violent. You can see where a, a softball sized prop rock actually hits him in the head when they're escaping the festival crowd. But to his credit, he stays in character and keeps running so that the take is not ruined.
Ah, nice. I'm guessing they must have been hard. You're like
Well, I
stud
mean,
rock.
hard enough, yeah, but obviously not the
Stayed in
consistency of
it
a rock. It may have
like a
smarted.
professional.
It may have smarted a bit. Any other notes on the festival?
Uh, the description described it as peaceful and the leader is benevolent. I would not describe it as either. It was giving me real dystopia vibes.
But it was in quotes, so
It was in quotes,
Paramount Plus helping us out,
helping us out.
letting you know that something's afoot.
It definitely was giving me weird. You know what? I actually watched um Idiocracy last night,
Yeah,
yesterday, and it was giving me real Idiocracy vibes.
a little bit. I can see that.
A weird dystopia.
Kirk's landing party seeks shelter from the mob at a boarding house owned by Rhaegar. A friend of Rhaegar suspects that the visitors are, quote, not of the body, which means the whole of Baton society is the body. That becomes pretty clear, and summons lawgivers. When the landing party refuses to come with them, the lawgivers become immobile. This scene's really confusing,
I mean, yeah,
and
yes, it is.
there's a lot of things that happen in this scene that either don't make a lot. They make sense later, but it makes me wonder if there were. Well, no, it couldn't have been editing, given how the story goes. But there's some stuff where you're just kind of expected to just go with it, and then it
Yeah, a
makes
little
sense
bit.
later. The number one thing, and I actually loved about this scene when Kirk's like no, and then they kind of freeze up, like they say in the
Yeah,
synopsis. Here's the funny thing. There's actually a lot of truth to that. No is a very powerful and magic word.
yeah.
And yeah, I know, Jordan, it's funny. No, but the funny thing is a few years ago, this is a bit of an aside, but you'll appreciate it. And I highly recommend you do this in your personal life. A few years ago, I listened to some shows, and not all of it was great information, but one thing I did take away from them was the power of telling people to f off.
Yeah,
And it got addictive, man. It's very powerful because what you learn, not everybody likes him, but one of my favorite things that Jordan Peterson ever said was you can't negotiate with someone if you can't tell them to go to hell. The power of no is incredible because when you're in a position in a negotiation, coercion, or otherwise, and you care enough about something or someone, or you're in a position where adhering to someone's request or demand is worse than anything else, and you can just look them in the eye and say, no, I'm not doing that. Most people don't know what to do.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, no.
especially if they're not used to being told no. It's fascinating to watch. And that's I really got a kick out of this scene because Kirk's just like, no. And they're like they don't know what to
Yeah.
do.
No.
It's
What do
like
you
does
mean
not
no?
compute, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny when you have people who come up to you and are like I remember like people in malls and whatnot, they always they're trying to badger you. Most people ignore them. I look them in the eye and go, no.
No. No,
And
thank you.
most of them just kind of freeze because they're not
If everything's doubling,
they're
give it to the next person.
yeah. But they're used to being ignored. So when you acknowledge them and say no, they're not used to
Right?
that. It's quite fun.
No.
It's quite fun. The other funny thing is the lawgivers. Their Roman candlesticks.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
The
just wrote
useless
death by
things.
I just wrote death by Roman candle. Lol.
Yeah. Well, that was those things were weird because Spock was like, they're fake, but I'm like, but they very definitely killed someone. So are they fake? I'm confused.
Well, the best part about Spock and the Roman candlestick is he's got it and he looks right in the barrel.
Right?
And I'm
He's
just
like
like,
this.
Spock, don't look in the barrel. Where's Sulu when you need him? Sulu could have been like, don't look in the barrel. You don't know if
Right?
it's loaded. Because Sulu appreciates gun safety. Except he
Never
doesn't. But
no, never point a gun at a thing you don't want to kill, Spock.
never look into the barrel of the gun either. That's
Right?
not a good.
Gun safety 101.
I don't know that there's one step in gun safety that's by far more important than all the others, but it's up there.
It's definitely up there.
If there's a short list of things to never do with a gun, it's on that list. Don't look down the barrel unless you're cleaning it and you have that piece separated and you've checked to make sure. And even then, it's probably not a good idea.
Right? Right?
Yeah, it's not a good look, especially afterward. This is also the time that I noticed they went to the trouble of giving Spock the hood thing,
Yeah.
the shawl, and then in this scene he's just got his ears out. Nobody cares.
Yeah, he
Nobody,
kind
nobody.
of stops using it towards the end.
Yeah,
When it
nobody notices. Nobody cares. Now, in story, this does make sense
yeah,
because
yeah, it does, yeah.
everybody's all
Zonked out.
yeah. So the fact that somebody's got pointy ears wouldn't even register to them.
No, no. Well, I think he stops when it becomes apparent that they don't care.
John Normer, who plays Tamar,
Uh,
the older fellow who gets Roman candled. But this actor previously appeared as Dr. Theodore Haskins, who you won't remember because I don't think he's ever mentioned by name. The shipwrecked captain from The Cage, the pilot episode, who
oh, interesting.
ended up being an illusion, but will make a third appearance as an unnamed old man in the episode "For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky." Rhaegar leads the Enterprise landing team to a hiding place. En route, a telepathic command causes the townspeople to attack the landing party. When that happened, I was like, "Whoa, that's actually terrifying." That's a legitimately scary shot. Not gonna lie, that's
Right. Well, I just
horrifying.
when he fired the stun, I was like, I just have a note that's just rad.
That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. And then yeah, I was like, oh, so that's what it looks like when someone gets stunned.
Yeah,
Because I don't think we've ever seen someone get stunned yet.
no, I think we have.
Have we? Have we seen them use the phasers on stun?
I think so. Not that wide berth, but that's coming. Because this is just when they have that real Night of the Living Dead shot start to
Yeah,
happen. Whenever it's just
that was really cool.
it's like one step away from Imhotep.
It it was cool. I liked it. I was like, this is neat. I'm
Like,
enjoying this.
well, Justin, we're gonna take a break from the levity to tell our viewers about a very, very special sponsor.
Sponsors that.
That very special sponsor, our dear viewers, is Paramount Plus.
Yes. Well, we watch this very show weekly.
So here's the thing that's awesome about Paramount Plus, and honestly, why I subscribed before the idea for this podcast even existed. Here's the thing. If you're watching this show, I can only assume that you're a Trekkie. You're a Star Trek fan. And if you don't have Paramount Plus already, you're missing out because you can get every piece of Star Trek, everything ever made Star Trek related on Paramount Plus for one low monthly cost. And actually, Paramount Plus also offers an annual subscription, which saves you. I think I did the math. It's I think it's a little over 20%. Like it's fairly substantial.
That's pretty good.
It's worth it. Like $50 a year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's rad. I couldn't believe that when I found that out, but it is true. And as a special gift for our listeners, let's say maybe you're on the fence, you're not sure if you really want it, even though, trust me, you want it. But if you use the link in our description to sign up for Paramount Plus, you get a free 7-day trial with no obligation. You can cancel if you want, but I'm telling you right now, you're not going to want to cancel because in addition to all the Star Trek glory, you also get Galaxy Quest.
You get Galaxy Quest.
You do get Galaxy Quest, but you also get the South Park specials. You
Yeah.
know,
You get SpongeBob.
you do get SpongeBob. You get all Nickelodeon library, tons of great shows and movies, including Daddy's Home 2, which I watched over the holidays. It's a holiday tradition for me. But the best part about it is you can watch it any time of the year. It's a
It's true.
beloved comedy in my, I was gonna say my house of me and my dog and cat.
My house of by myself.
I'm lonely. No, I'm not. Anyway, but yes, you can get all this and more, including various live sports. That's something that's been fairly recently added. So
Oh,
basically, if it's awesome and made by Paramount or in conjunction with Paramount or owned by Paramount, you get it. And by signing up for Paramount Plus using our link, you help this podcast, you help us grow and bring you even more content. And that is the most important part.
it's true.
Actually, no,
Without it,
the most important part is you getting your Star Trek fix because listen, it doesn't matter which series you want, even the latest, and some of them are exclusively on Paramount Plus, so you
yeah,
can't even
like,
watch them anywhere else.
do you want to watch Star Trek Picard?
Paramount
You're gonna need
Plus.
you're gonna need Paramount Plus. And for how will you not be able to set your phasers for fun if you don't get that Paramount Plus description?
You have to if
The
you want to set
description.
your favors for fun. But also if you're like me, most Trekkies every now and again we'll watch the various series that we like once every couple of years, kind of at minimum. And whenever I get that, kick to just watch Deep Space Nine through, Paramount Plus makes it easy.
To do
And the original series.
one
And
convenient location.
well, here's the reason why you need to sign up for Paramount Plus, because the whole point of this show is what we want you guys to do. If you're watching this, we want you to watch the episodes with us and
It's
then
true.
watch our episodes so we can have fun together,
It's true.
and then you can share the things that you notice in the comments section, and then we can discuss and have fun as Trekkies, as fans. So click that link in the description, sign up for Paramount, your free trial of Paramount Plus today, and trust me, you're going to want to stick around. It's great. It's fantastic. It really is. It's Paramount
It's
Plus.
Paramount. It's Paramount that you sign up.
It's Paramount that you
Paramount
sign up.
for Paramount
Anyway,
Plus.
anyway, thank you Paramount Plus for sponsoring this podcast. We greatly appreciate it. We love you. We loved you before you sponsored us, so it's legit because we talked about Paramount Plus well
It's true.
before this episode. So
It's true.
it's legit. We're both subscribers, obviously, because we use it to watch the shows that we talk about.
It's absolutely true.
But we will get back to our show, and then after this show, you're going to click that link and sign up for Paramount Plus, aren't you? You know you are. You know you are.
They're
You're gonna.
gonna.
You're
They're
gonna.
gonna.
I trust you guys. I trust
It's
you
right
guys.
there. It's right there. Just click it. It's in the description.
It's just right there.
It's right there. It's below me, I assume.
It's somewhere down there. Anyway, back to the show. The landing party stuns the attackers with their phasers and find Lieutenant O'Neill, the other member of the original landing party, among them. They take O'Neill with them, but keep him sedated on Rhaegar's advice. Rhaegar reveals that Landru pulled the Archons down from the skies. Contacting the ship, Kirk learns that heat beams from the planet are attacking the Enterprise, which must use all its power for its shields. Its orbit is deteriorating, and it will crash in 12 hours unless the beams are turned off.
Oh,
This,
ticky clock.
yeah, one that's not really necessary, I might add, but I
No.
mean, it adds an element. But one of many firsts in this episode. This is also the first time that Scotty is shown to be in command when Kirk and Spock are off the ship.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which I gotta say, Scotty knows. Scotty knows what he's doing. Scotty does eventually reach the rank of captain, by the way.
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, he shows up in Generations as a
Yep, Star
captain.
Trek
Yeah,
Generations. Captain
yeah,
Scotty completely designed the new Enterprise. So
yeah,
the
yeah,
Enterprise,
yeah.
the Enterprise B.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you get to see Captain Scotty in the film Star Trek Generations.
Captain Scotty.
A projection of Landru appears in the hiding place, and Kirk and his team are rendered unconscious by hypersonic waves. The landing party is imprisoned in a dungeon. Dr. McCoy is absorbed into the body, or, in normal people vernacular, placed under Landru's mental control. But Marplon, a member of the Underground against Landru, rescues Kirk and Spock. And we get treated to another doofus William Shatner look when he's
Yeah.
playing the. It's not nothing takes it. The look he makes in The Conscience of the King just takes the cake.
I mean,
It's
yeah, that was good. This was pretty good. I mean, okay. The Hive Mind was very definitely they were going for a Hive Mind thing, and that also there's another Rick and Morty episode called Unity, similar idea. And then yeah, them getting rescued by the guy. Well, that's convenient.
I thought it was a pretty good twist.
What a twist!
I thought solid swerve with the third guy being the converter in the underground.
I mean, yeah. Like I say, I said seriously, this episode's really good. It's firing on all cylinders.
I did just think I was like, that's a great place to have a guy in the underground, the guy that converts people. So
Right,
it's a
right.
really good stopgap. Although it makes you wonder why he converts anyone in the first place. Like, why would he convert Dr. McCoy?
Yeah. Why did no? He switched. Where Dr. McCoy was the previous guy when he came in. There was the guy.
Oh, okay. There's another guy. That
there
makes
was
sense
another
then.
guy. Yeah, he took over for him.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
He
That's
was the
right.
guy who kept
Yeah,
it
I,
going.
I can't believe I watched that happen and forgot about it. Did somebody put me in front of a thing and scramble my brain?
I mean, hey, I to be fair, I just watched this today, so
Hello, friend. Do you watch Paramount Plus? I
do
signed
it.
up for Paramount Plus. You should too. It will bring you much happiness.
I think I had none of that earlier, which is oh yeah, their language must be different when they're like the gentle treatment of. I'm like, I think we have a different definition of gentle.
Maybe they're using genteel?
Maybe,
Like in the
maybe.
sense, obviously they're using the word gentle, but like the gentle in the phrase gentleman, for example.
Oh yeah, fair. Because they were like the gentle, you'll be treated gently. I'm like, it feels like maybe they won't be treated gently,
Yeah, they are roughed up a little bit from time to time.
right?
I did before Landry makes them all go unconscious. Doesn't he say something to that effect? It's like you will be treated well, and then it's
Yeah,
like, but I'm gonna rupture your eardrums and cause you to black out first.
yeah, right. I feel like when you're like, we're gonna treat you gently. I feel like I don't know. I feel like we maybe have different definitions. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. It could just be me.
Rhaegar and Marplon tell Kirk and Spock how Landru saved their society from war and anarchy 6,000 years ago and reduced the planet's technology to a simpler level. Overhearing their whispered plans, McCoy summons the lawgivers. I'm always very wary, and we should all be wary of people that claim that it was quote unquote better back in the day, so we should just
Right,
not use technology. Um,
right.
Spoiler alert, it was not better back in the day. Back in the day,
No.
kind of sucked.
Yeah. You always learn that. You learn that for however much stuff sucks now, it sucked way worse back then.
Sucked way worse. Like, I constantly remind people to say that. It's like, yeah, it was really great when you didn't have antibiotics.
Right?
That's fun.
The black stuff.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, when you get a cut, it's a 50-50 shot of whether it's going to kill you or not. That was
Right?
great. That was fun.
You know
You
when you can how you can put like medicine or take medicine? Yeah.
know,
You know when people
ointments.
used to die of dysentery? People used to die of dysentery.
And it was everywhere.
It
It was a
was like, like
single greatest killer in times of war until, I believe, the First World War.
yeah, that makes sense.
It was certainly the
Like
case. Dysentery, I still think, had the highest mortality claim of the American Civil War before,
huh,
and I think
that
second was
doesn't surprise
infection.
me. That also doesn't surprise me.
No, I'm not sure which one took the lead, but I think dysentery was number one.
Hey, it's the reason why it kills you all the time in the Oregon Trail. It's gonna
I
get you in that
mean,
game.
there's a reason for that, yeah. For all you kids who don't know, which kids don't play the Oregon Trail, not
Kids play
anymore.
the who's not out there on a Friday
No,
night
they play the
playing the
new
Oregon
souped
Trail?
up version with animations and graphics and
Oh,
4K nonsense.
missing out. It's a real difficult game. It's very hard.
I mean, it's not that hard.
I mean, all my characters died of dysentery.
No, see, the Oregon Trail's not that hard. What you do is you just don't make stupid decisions. Don't cross deep rivers. Pay for the
That is true.
ferry.
Always pay for the ferry.
Always pay for the ferry.
Also,
You won't make it.
you're gonna save a few dollars. Your family's gonna die. Pay for the ferry.
Pay for the ferry. And don't shoot all the food. Get what you need, and because when you go hunting later, it won't be there. Shoot
Right?
one buffalo and you're set. You're good.
Exactly.
Keep
I
them
mean, it worked
kids
for the
healthy and
natives.
fed.
It'll work for you.
Yeah. Keep them kids healthy and fed, but you don't need to shoot 8 buffalo and everything that moves.
Right?
I know it's fun. It's not that kind of game.
It's not the kind of game.
If you want that kind of game, there's several deer hunting games that you can play. I did laugh though when they're talking and then McCoy sees that they're talking and then they just walk 6 feet the other direction. They're
Right?
like, okay, now we have perfect secrecy. Which is,
My favorite part of that was they're like, he's like, "Are you guys conspiring?" No, buddy. No, we're not. Yeah, blah blah, whatever bullshit you're doing. Yeah, we're not. We're not conspiring. Yeah, we're totally conspiring. Just over here, a few extra feet over to the. Like, I think
we're
that
just gonna go over here and whisper even more conspicuously.
I mean, DeForest Kelly as a totally mind whammy McCoy was very fun.
It
The bit
was.
where Kirk is trying to convince him is very, very funny. And then yeah, just the judo chop and the straight cross. I love when Spock does the straight cross, and Kirk is like, "Wow, that's real old fashioned."
That's a phenomenal line. In fact, so that's the next part of the story is Kirk and Spock subdue them and don their robes. Marplon takes Kirk and Spock to the Hall of Audiences where the priests commune with Landru. And then I just love, like, I'm going to touch on what you said. So in the dungeon, when Kirk and Spock are subduing Landru's guard, Spock punches the guard in the face with his fist instead of using the Vulcan nerve pinch. And the fact that Kirk even commented, isn't that old fashioned? This is the first time Spock has ever hit someone with his fist.
It's a straight cross, bam!
Just right to the face. Which,
power right in the kisser.
given what we've learned of Vulcan strength, though, that would certainly break the person's jaw.
And it had to have broken his jaw. And then
I
Kirk
mean,
with his judo chop.
Yeah, you got.
I just watched the third Austin Powers movie. So just made me think of that. It was like judo chop. Incidentally, I think the third Austin Powers is the best one. Michael Caine is amazing in that movie. He's
It's
genuinely
the
very
worst
funny.
one. The second one's the best one.
Ooh, that's a hard to disagree with. I really like the second one. I watched the first one. I watched the first one recently, and I was like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember. And then the third one was as good as I remembered. So I had a much better time watching it than I did the first one.
I'm always really partial to jokes that are oddly specific, and just the fact that clearly Mike Myers has something against the Dutch, or at least Michael Caine does.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know why I love the line so much. He's like, besides, they share a border with the Dutch.
There's only 2 kinds of people I can't stand in this world: people who are intolerant of people based on who they are, where they're from,
and the Dutch.
And the Dutch. It's just he's got so many. Or this is my favorite is. Do you know how many nameless guards I've defeated over the years? You have no chance. Just lie down.
There you go. There you go.
It just made me think of Star Trek, and I was like, just Captain Kirk being like, "Do you know how many nameless aliens I've taken down over the years? Just fall down."
You fought a Gorn. I fought a Gorn.
I fought a Gorn. Are you a Gorn? You're not a Gorn. Get out of here.
Yes, Kirk has faced a very staggering amount of aliens. He's fought them with his bare hands at times. Other times he's used a phaser. There's an episode where he uses this weird. So remember the shirtless stick fighting?
I recall the shirtless stick fighting. Yes.
So there's an episode in season 2, which I believe is the first one, where he has the same stick, but it's got a blade on one side, and he's not shirtless, but his shirt gets ripped, so that happens.
I mean, he's 2/3 of the way there.
Something that we've done countless times, though, is we've started podcasts. I think this is podcast number 11 or 12. No, I think it might be 10. It's up there. We've made a few podcasts over the years, thanks to our friends at Arate Media. So I ask you, do you have an idea for a podcast? Because if you do, Arate Media can help you. Even if you've done podcasting or content creation before and just want to be part of the group, or if you've never done any of this before and have no idea what you're doing, we can help you from start to finish. Justin, is that a true statement?
Absolutely, yes. From start to finish, step by step, they will provide you like with all the tools and resources to start your own podcast. Like literally, there's a playlist of YouTube videos where from like the name to the logo to how to make short form content, long form content, and also just there's a support network of people who, I mean, we all just want to see each other grow and get bigger and better and get sweet Paramount Plus sponsorships. Boom, double sponsor.
And they don't conflict with each other because we also teach you how to pick your sponsors to make sure that you don't have any unfortunate instances. Looking at you, looking at you, AEW. For those that know, you know. Don't have a guy use a pizza slicer in a match and then cut to a Domino's commercial. It's a bad scene. It's a bad image. It's not good.
Do it.
Don't do it.
And we don't do that.
We do
in the
not. We do
Arte
not.
Media Pantheon.
We do not. We would never do such a thing. But what we can do, like I said, is help you start a podcast. So click that second link in the description. Send an email directly to me, Jake, owner, CEO, president of Arte Media, and we will help you get your podcast off the ground as soon as you send that email. But now, back to Star Trek. A projection of Landru appears and threatens them. Kirk and Spock use their phasers to blast through the wall and expose a computer programmed by Landru who died 6,000 years ago. The computer neutralizes their phasers. Kirk and Spock argue with the computer that because it has destroyed the creativity of the people by disallowing their free will, it is evil and should self-destruct, freeing the people of Beta 3. The computer complies. The heat beams stop, and the Enterprise is saved. Kirk agrees to leave Federation advisors and educators on the planet to help reform the civilization.
So I just, when it comes to Landau, number one, set work on this episode, phenomenal.
It is. It's
work.
really good. It's really good.
And then I had a series of guesses that is Landau going to be an AI, which it turned out to be.
It turned out to be.
Did AI exist in the 1960s?
It did as a concept.
Like a science fiction concept.
Well, I mean, robots, autonomous robots. So
true.
Yeah, AI is not new, kids. And in fact, the AI we have today isn't technically AI.
No,
it's just learning. It's just learning engine software. It's not AI as like in this episode. It's truly AI. It is intelligent.
Yeah,
it's just artificial. It was made by humans. That's it. Humanoids. It's made by humanoids.
And then fascinating that Star Trek of all things is arguing that AI cannot be creative because it has no soul. An argument that we are still having today in 2025, which I thought is kind of interesting.
Well, here's the ironic part is I think that's true, but it theoretically could, because actually the Orville, to sing its praises again, does this really well with Isaac. So Isaac is an artificial being. He is essentially a very, very sophisticated computer. And yet, as the series progresses, I mean, he doesn't get a soul or anything, but like he does become more, I dare say, emotional, but in the capacity that a machine could be. It's genuine though, because he does eventually, spoiler alert from the Orville, he does eventually marry Dr. Claire Finn. And
he does, yeah.
I rewatched that episode recently too. Watched it last night. I'm sorry, I just gotta say, I love the bit where he and Dr. Finn have already, slept together. So now he's like, now I need to terminate the coupling. So the bit where he's in a wife beater and tidy whities.
He shows him the wife beater. Yeah, that was very funny.
And then she's like, "I thought we were gonna have dessert." He's like, "The last thing you need is to."
And then I think you mentioned already. Yeah, Kirk talked that computer into killing itself.
Yeah.
Or have you read or seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I have seen it. I started to read it, but I did not finish. But I'm familiar with it.
Do you know the bit where I think it's Marvin, the depressed robot, talks the computer into killing itself? He gets that's what this makes me think of. Kirk just like, and then just Kirk utterly destroyed and dismantled these people's entire society and being, and it's just kind of like, well, good luck. I mean, he ultimately did. He helped them in the end, but just when he turns to the guy, he's like, well, this is your problem now. Bye.
It's like, well, here are the ashes. Do with them what you will.
we've completely disrupted and dismantled your entire society. The very thing we weren't supposed to do. Because, like, I would argue that society was functioning perfectly fine. Like,
I disagree. It does bring up a really interesting, ethical question though, is because there are some people who would say like, listen, there's no, I mean, there is violence though because of the festival, but that's kind of out of
yeah,
place. But it's like, is a society really peaceful if everybody's mentally forced to comply? It's the Clockwork Orange sort
I
of
could.
question.
So the festival, is it like that's just like the computer resetting and like releasing control?
I couldn't tell if it was that or if it was just the computer. See, I would have liked a little bit more of an explanation on that. I'm not sure if it's that or if it's the computer just not being able to control people all the time, and then it gives them a period to let it all out.
I get. It's just like, why is the once they're free, their instant reaction is to freak out. Like
I don't
like
know, and apparently this only happens outdoors, so I'm guessing it's instigated by the computer. Because
it
apparently
seems to be.
if you're indoors, allegedly you're fine.
Then my other question is how, if this is if it has been subjugating this people for, man, we're spiraling, but if it's been subjugating a people for 100 years, how did you wind up with people who are resistant to it? If it like that, it not being a person kind of made it fall apart a little bit. Like, I think it would have
Yeah.
made more sense if it was a person or a being utilizing like a fascist dystopian control, as opposed to it's just a machine. Like, well, then how did there wind up three specific guys who were not in its control? How did that happen? That seems like an oversight.
See, I think this goes into the title though. So the way I understand it is Landru, the person, came 6,000 years prior and basically retweaked the society, got them away from violence and all that. And then the USS Archon comes and gets some people released from it because they probably now they did break the Prime Directive. Absolutely, they did.
Yeah,
But I don't know, maybe they busted some people out and then it's just an underground movement that's continued for the past 100 years. That's
I
my guess.
guess my
Yeah,
thing is just like,
it's not really thought out.
yeah, 100 years. Like, movies and televisions tend to do this thing where they don't realize that like 100 years is a long time. I would have, again, far be it for me to criticize a decades old show, but I would maybe tightened up the time to like 10 years. Maybe would have
Yeah,
been a tad more believable for me.
yeah, because to put this into perspective, the Civil War and the beginning of the Civil War and the Kennedy assassination are approximately 100 years apart.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. A good example. I in media I would use. We talked about. Have you seen the Lorax?
I have not.
Oh,
It's documented. I'm not a fan of Dr. Seuss.
okay. Well, okay. In that movie, the basic premise of it is a lot of the people have forgotten what trees are, but there's a character who is like an adult. So within the confines of a society, the society are too like close to the existence of trees to not know what trees are. That's what this is for me. In like 100 years,
Yeah.
you would still, you wouldn't be this removed from like basic, or like, how are they breeding? I guess maybe, or is the computer breeding them, or like,
Yeah, that's a good question. But like I guess here's to kind of prove your point. It's not quite 100 years, but it's close. So the Second World War
yeah,
is 80 years ago. The end of it,
yeah,
80 years ago.
yeah, like
Yeah,
you'd have a
80.
cultural memory of this stuff. That's a
Oh, we
bit,
very much have a cultural memory of it. Like
yeah,
this
yeah,
is this is not fading into the obscure. If anything, it's we're finding out more and more as various things become uncovered and or declassified. So
yeah,
like it's still we're still very aware of those events of 80 years ago. So
exactly. I mean, to be fair though, this seems to be a not media driven society, so maybe that's why. I don't know. They're definitely a
that's
religiously
true.
motivated
That's
society.
true. Yeah, and they don't have the benefit of technology like television or digital storage or any of that. Even
Exactly. Yeah.
even even like optical media, they don't
Yeah.
have physical media of any kind. So
Um.
yeah, that's true. I guess yeah, if you don't talk about it or write it down, it will be forgotten very, very quickly.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't. I guess if this is where we're introducing the Prime Directive, mucking with people's societies, I guess this is where this becomes a moral and moral quandary. But for me, I'm like, I don't know. I think I have a note. The Enterprise just kind of seems like the bad guys here.
I mean, in this case, no, because they're wresting control. These people are being controlled. Like they do not have free will, and they're not artificial life forms. So you can't even make the choice that it's like, well, that's how they choose to be. But it's not like the Federation interfered in the first place, though. So
I
it's a
guess,
gray
but
area.
I will say that the ending scene feels added on in retrospect to have them be like, yeah, these people don't seem like they're going to be okay because literally they have they have no frame of like what to do with themselves now that they're not being influenced by this computer. Although I guess maybe they wanted that's the case of having the conversion machine. Like maybe you're not born converted. Maybe I guess is supposed to be the implication. Maybe
No, that's the implication that I got for sure.
that you have to be assimilated when you become an I guess yeah, more of the resistance, I guess maybe. I
Yeah.
liked it overall, but there's definitely holes. There's definitely holes to be had, to be found.
Well, the to bring up the Orville again, the Mocklins serve a much better vehicle for this sort of metaphor in that series because on the one hand they have a similar version of the Prime Directive,
Yeah.
but they also have a concept of you respect or tolerate other cultures, and the Mocklins are a patriarchal like criminally patriarchal society where they don't even like they would just rather not have females at all.
Yeah.
Like not keep them subjugated. They just don't want them, period.
Yeah.
And it comes to a head like several times throughout the series. And
Yeah.
you get to several times you get to a point where, having a legitimate debate of like, okay, at what point though are we tolerating something that we can, like at what point does this become intolerable?
Yeah. Yeah. At what
You know,
point do you
where's
yeah.
the line? Where does the line of respecting another culture end?
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and it's done really well in the Orville.
It really is. And yeah, it's just here, it's just like I get what they were going for. Yeah, I ultimately was highly entertained, but I yeah, holes. There were holes. There were some holes.
There are definitely some holes, but you may be wondering whatever happened to Landrew and the people of Beta 3. It is actually revealed in an episode of Lower Decks entitled No Small Parts that debuted in 2020 and was broadcast 53 years after this episode.
Really?
Yeah,
What's
so
the so
apparently
wait,
we find out what happens to Landrew and the gang.
I thought he got blown up or destroyed. Did he not get destroyed and dismantled at the end of this? Was that not the
Well,
resolution?
it looks like they retconned it.
Oh, what's the retcon?
I don't know. I haven't seen that episode yet.
Oh, fair. So I thought you were
We'll
gonna be like,
get
and it
there.
turns out that he's surrounded by a bevy of computer robot women.
Well, I mean, if you can repair a computer,
True. That is true.
it just makes a bunch of hot androids because we haven't seen that before.
Right? I'm thinking it's gonna end up being like Knight Rider, where it's like a spaceship, but it's controlled by Landra.
Turns himself into a car. It's like I wanted to get around. Ah, yes. Well, any other notes on Return of the Archons?
No, that's no, that's it. I don't got anything else.
Like I said, it's not my favorite episode. It was certainly not bad. I do enjoy ethical dilemmas though, so that was
Yeah.
fun. That was fun for me.
So are we getting to dress up like every episode now, or like every time they go to a new planet, they're gonna have a new outfit now and
You know,
blend in?
I totally thought about it. I don't. We'll figure it out. Kind of felt like we should have, but we don't
So
have those clothes.
I meant on the show. Are they going to now every time they're?
Oh, not us. Okay. They do it more often. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I just realized the episode I was talking about has a problem. It's a very uncomfortable moment because of how they have to dress. If you know, you know. But we'll get there.
We'll get
Um,
there. That's
next week.
interesting.
Oh, what's
I was just gonna
interesting?
say, oh, the fact that they have. I wonder if that's just because the cast got bored of wearing the same uniform every single. I wonder
I
what
would
the creative
imagine. I would
reasoning behind that will
imagine.
be.
Yeah, probably. Although this is the second part of season one, so maybe they got a budget increase but it makes sense. Like you wouldn't want to go down to a strange planet in this.
No, well, yeah, that's why in the previous episode I was like, surely they've got like military. Like it just makes Doctor Who makes me think of the TARDIS. He's always got clothes in the TARDIS. Like you'd think, like yeah, they have like a closet for like yeah. So that's why
Well,
in
no,
this one where they're like, we blend in now.
they can reconstitute clothing, so they can make whatever they need.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
next week we're going to watch one of the most beloved episodes of Star Trek: The Original Series and the genesis, pun intended. Well, actually, pun unintended, but happy accident. So I'm claiming it. The genesis of technically two of the most beloved Star Trek films ever made. Certainly one, absolutely one. But it leads into the other one. So we're going to be talking about the episode Space Seed. Justin, would you like
I'm
to
pretty
take a
sure.
stab?
Well, based on your lead-in, I'm guessing. I'm guessing it's Khan.
It is Khan.
It's Khan. That's so. I didn't think he was so soon. I thought he was season 2. I didn't realize he was
I did
season 1.
too. I didn't remember him being in season one. And what's really funny, we'll touch on this much more when we talk about that.
Khan!
When we talk about this episode, this episode was a one-off.
Yeah, yeah.
It
I know
was
him coming back.
yeah, it was a literal one-off. And then he comes back with a vengeance in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which is oh, it's so good. Like that's going to be a
Yeah,
really long episode when we talk about Wrath of Khan. I'm still not
Wrath of
sure
Khan.
what we're going to do with the movie episodes because they're going to be shorter seasons, and I can't decide. I don't want to break them up into parts,
Fair.
so I think it'll just be a shorter season. But like maybe we debut every 2 weeks instead of every week. I don't know. We'll figure it out, or we just film them all in advance and release them because those are going to be long edits. But we're going to get there. But we got 3 seasons of the original series and then 2 seasons of the animated series before we get to the movies.
Wait, really? This animated series has 2 seasons.
It
That I did
does.
not know. I thought it was only 1 season. That I did not know.
Nope,
Oh, you
it's
learned a new
2
thing.
seasons.
Oh, how
But
interesting.
I believe they're shorter episodes though, so those should be.
Fair.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Some of this is going to get wild. Some of it's going to get wild real fast.
yeah. Go off those rails.
Yeah, but next week's going to be great. We're going to talk about Space Seed. I honestly don't think we'll have too much funny stuff to talk about. It's probably going to be a real like this episode's awesome sort of thing.
Cardinal Multipon is so good.
And then I say that, and then there's moments we're gonna have fun with it. Well, there's an instance where Kirk gets a crew member's name wrong, and it's pretty funny.
That's funny.
What's her name? McGivers, and then Spock's just like Lieutenant MacGyvers.
I bet she does give her.
To Khan, yes. Anyway, join us next week on the Final Frontier podcast when we go over Space Seed and Khan.
Khan.
If you think for a second that's not going to be a running gag,
Oh, and obviously,
you're wrong.
live long and subscribe.
Watch long and
Watch long
prosper.
and prosper. Live long and subscribe.
And subscribe to Paramount Plus.
And yeah. First link in the description.